This week on Jersey Matters, Governor Phil Murphy is declared the winner after a narrow victory over Republican Jack Ciattarelli. We'll have a recap. In a night of shocking results, it looked as if one of them was in Monmouth County, where Democratic Senator and rising star Vito Powell was going to lose. That's changed. We'll talk with the senator. And get a COVID shot or you're fired. We'll take a look at how strict new vaccine mandates are affecting New Jersey. Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Let's get right to my interview with Monmouth County Senator Vito Powell, who says the voters of New Jersey sent a message to the Democratic Party. Senator, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us. I know it's been quite a couple of days for you. When the polls closed on Election Day, you were behind. Let's start there. What were you, did you know this was going to turn, or were you concerned?
No, all public polling, private, public, all had something different. But when we saw the number of votes Phil Murphy was losing each town by, I mean, he was just getting crushed at the top of the ticket, town by town by town. We knew there was a problem. On election night, he was losing my hometown of Long Branch, which is never elected a Republican, never voted for a Republican at the top, outside of Chris Christie that one time. But we knew there was a problem then.
So you knew that a lot of mail-in ballots were coming in at that point?
We did, but people were sending a message against the Democratic Party.
Oh, I want to get to that as well. I want to deal with your race first, because we're taping this, I should say, right before noon on Friday. Are congratulations in order at this point?
We have formally declared, yes. There are less votes outstanding than our margin. We're up right now by about 2,100, and there's a little less than 1,800 votes still to be counted. Did
Lorianetta call you, your opponent?
You know, what's interesting is I've never met her. I've never seen her. I've never talked to her. We had 2 scheduled debates. She didn't come, so I don't know her at all.
So it's traditional for somebody that loses an election to call and concede. You don't expect that?
I don't. I've never met her.
Yeah, I get it. Let's talk about what you said a moment ago, that the voters sent a message to the Democratic Party in New Jersey, and by the way, in Virginia as well, and more so maybe in Virginia. What was that message?
I think folks are tired of government telling them what to do. And, when we see politicians who are imposing different mandates and different things, but maybe they don't always practice it. I find it telling when I see elected officials, without a mask on indoors, but we have mask mandates and certain things. I think people have gotten tired of a level of hypocrisy they feel from politicians in both parties. I think Trump started playing a little bit to it, and I think it's captured to a larger level. A lot of restaurants in my district were shut down for a lot longer than they felt like they should have been. A lot of businesses were shut down for a lot longer than they should have been. And I think all of that played a really big role in a lot of this.
Joe Biden's approval ratings are low. Did that play a role in this at all?
I think so. I think it was a perfect storm. I think it was everything. I think it was the national climate. I also think you had a lot of residents that were very frustrated by motor vehicle and unemployment and a lot of long lines and all of the above that they were very, very frustrated by.
Yeah, it didn't turn out as bad as it looked like a couple of days ago. Or it didn't turn out for the Democrats as bad as it looked like on Election Day. At least in New Jersey, it didn't. You were able to pull out a win. It doesn't seem like the 2 people, the Democratic candidates for Assembly in Monmouth, are going to win. What can you tell us about that at this point?
Still too close to call. Assemblywoman Downey is trailing by about 800 votes. Assemblyman Hotaling a little more than that. And we know we have got about 1,800 votes, and we've done really well with vote by mails. It's going to be tight without a doubt. But look, they did an incredible job. And for them to overcome thousands upon thousands of votes. I mean, people literally voted for Jack Ciattarelli and then crossed over to us. It's just, you can survive a couple thousand, but 5, 6, 7,000 just going the other way. I hope they pull it off. I'm cautiously optimistic, and I know it's going to be tight. I know it could go 100 votes either way.
Right. It says something about you, though, because the fact that they're still behind and you won your race means that independents and or Republicans split their votes to vote for you in a week that wasn't great for Democrats. That at least has to be a good sign for you.
Yeah, it absolutely was. But I think there's a big problem with our party. The police officer marijuana bill on criminalizing police officers, that needs to get changed when we return. And I heard that from a lot of folks that live in my district. There were a lot of bad bills that the Democrats have passed. I didn't vote for any of them. I voted against Murphy's budgets. I opposed the shore rental tax. I opposed a lot of them, but it really didn't matter because the voters, including a lot of registered Democrats, held Democrats responsible, saying you guys have gotten out of control. Why is nobody talking about affordability? Why is this party talking about wedge issues that don't affect, really a lot of people? And I think this is a Democratic state, without a doubt, but this is not a state where we're going to take extremist positions. And unfortunately, I think that's what's been coming out of elements of the Democratic Party. And it's not good. And I am a proud progressive. I'm the sponsor of the Reproductive Freedom Act. I've championed a lot of progressive issues. And I think that is a good message. But the message where we're taking on these crazy, these crazy mandates, these crazy fights. I mean, we had extended, I should have seen this coming in some sense, because we had extended lockdowns here at the Jersey Shore, where hundreds, if not thousands, of small business owners in my district were shut down for extended periods of time. Meanwhile, you could go into the Walmart or the Kmart or wherever, and the corporations and the big box stores had a unfair advantage. I remember during the vaccine rollout where we couldn't get people who needed vaccines, but you could be a 20-year-old who started smoking, you can go online tomorrow. There's so much that we did, and it's not just on Phil Murphy, it's not just on Joe Biden, it's on the Democratic Party as a whole, that they need to govern and they need to actually bring responsible government forward. And I think that is the message that voters sent. And I think I would have done better, but people said, you know what, Vin, you got a D next to your name. You got to do more to stand up to some of this.
It's wonderful that you're self-reflective, and I would hope that the Democratic Party would be as well. At this point, it looks like Senate President Steve Sweeney is going to lose. If he does lose, would you be interested in Senate President?
No. I will support a Senate President who is going to fight for many of the things I just said for. I don't know who that person is, but it won't be me. I'm blessed each and every day now, and fortunately for another 2 years to serve Monmouth County, and that's going to be my focus. I'm not, really interested in going all over the state right now.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and congratulations once again. We hope to talk to you many more times.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Monmouth County Senator Vito Powell, coming up next on Jersey Matters.
I'm Phil Anderson. Coming up on Jersey Matters, we'll talk about what the recent gubernatorial elections means for New Jersey moving forward.
Welcome back. Heading into Tuesday's gubernatorial election, polls showed incumbent Democratic Governor Phil Murphy with a comfortable lead over Republican Jack Ciattarelli. But Jersey Matters' Phil Andrews tells us New Jersey voters sent a big message to Governor Murphy.
Larry, watching that election was like watching a prize fight. Governor Murphy came out swinging in the early rounds, but Ciattarelli took control of this thing in the middle rounds. But in the end, it was Governor Murphy who delivered the final blow. The only question is, what comes next? And that, of course, is significant because Murphy becomes the first Democratic governor reelected in the Garden State in 44 years.
The late Governor Brendan Byrne did this in 1977. Thank you, New Jersey!
But while thanking the voters of New Jersey, the narrow margin of victory over challenger Jack Ciattarelli sends a major message to Murphy, which he apparently heard loud and clear.
If you want to be governor of all of New Jersey, you must listen to all of New Jersey. And New Jersey, I hear you.
Now, following the election, I had a chance to catch up with Assembly Minority Leader John Bramnick, who is now Senator-elect Bramnick after winning his Senate race against Joe Signorella. You weren't 100% sure that Jack had a chance against Phil for different reasons, but what message did Republican voters in New Jersey send to the Murphy administration?
The message that was sent wasn't from necessarily Republican voters. It was from, I consider, the middle of New Jersey, which is don't go too far to the left and don't go too far to the right. Governor Kane used to say 75% of the people are in the middle. And I think what happened is this was a reaction to extreme policies, and that's why this was such a close race.
Now, the other big political news emanating from Tuesday night's election, the defeat of Senate President Stephen Sweeney, who was upset by truck driver Ed Durr. Sweeney has been a major political force in Trenton for over 2 decades. With Steve Sweeney losing, what does that mean for Murphy moving forward?
Well, I think it's probably a little easier for Murphy because Sweeney and Murphy were not necessarily on the same page. So if the governor can get a Senate president who he's better aligned with, it'd be easier for him to do things in the Senate.
In his second inaugural address, Governor Byrne concluded by noting, and I quote the governor, "We shall be judged in the long run not by how we fared in elections, but by what we did as an administration." And these are the words, amen, these are the words that Sheila and I and our team and each and every single one of us have lived every single day the past 4 years and will live every day by every day for the next 4 years as we continue the work to make New Jersey stronger and ever fairer. And those words will always remind us to always, always, always keep moving forward. Again, thanks to each and every one of you. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless the great state of New Jersey and the United States of America.
Now, for those of you who are disappointed that your vote did not remove Governor Murphy from Trenton, here's something you should know. This will be Murphy's second and final term in office, which means the next time you vote, there will be a new governor here in New Jersey. For Jersey Matters, I'm Phil Andrews in Trenton.
Thank you, Phil. We'll get back to election coverage in just a minute. But up next, should you get a booster shot? Advice from one of New Jersey's top docs next. President Biden recommended that Americans get a third COVID-19 booster shot, but not so fast. Many medical professionals don't think that most Americans should get one. So we asked infectious disease specialist Dr. Shoba Swaminathan from Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School for her recommendation. Doctor, as always, thanks so much for your time today. We've got some important questions about booster shots. Who should be getting them?
So the CDC recommendation is that persons over the age of 65, adults who live in congregate settings, nursing homes, other long-term care facilities, and persons 50 to 64 with underlying health conditions are the people who should get the booster shot. Now, there are other individuals, like persons 18 to 64, who may be in occupations that put them at increased risk for exposure. Frontline workers, healthcare workers, teachers, etc. They could consider getting a booster shot depending on how they feel their risk might be from getting complications from COVID-19.
But they just approved the booster shots for everybody, right?
So the CDC guidance actually says the booster shots, it's okay to get the booster shot if you need those things. And the rationale is when you look at why someone gets a booster shot, right? If you step back and think about it, it's because once you get the primary series of vaccination, 2 shots for the messenger RNA and 1 for the J&J, over time, your antibody levels have been shown to drop a little bit. That being said, the ones that have gotten serious infections over time are really in the group persons aged greater than 65 or people with those underlying health conditions. Those are the ones who've gotten slightly more ill because of COVID-19 despite getting vaccinations. While young, healthy adults may have had what's called breakthrough infections, but the majority of people who have had those, unless they have underlying health conditions, have tended to have milder infections, haven't required hospitalizations, and for the most part haven't died. So the priority is really making sure that you don't get seriously ill from COVID-19.
I get it. Let's just say, though, you're 45 years old, you're perfectly healthy, you go to the gym every day, you just want that extra protection. Is there any harm in getting a booster shot? No,
there is. The data clearly shows that the booster shots, the side effects would be no worse than what you would have received from the second shot. So essentially, you're the only group for whom a booster shot should be given is if you got the J&J vaccine and it's been at least 2 months, because the decline in titers happens much more faster. Any adult who got the J&J vaccine, if it's been at least 2 months, they should get it regardless of their underlying health condition, if present or not.
But if you got the J&J vaccine, you should now go get the Pfizer booster shot, right? You shouldn't.
You could.
You could.
The recommendation actually is if you got the J&J, you probably should get a booster from one of the messenger RNA vaccines, either the Pfizer or the Moderna.
So there's no problem with that at all. I want to change topics for a second, because one of the reasons people might want to get the booster shots is because of this fear of where this virus is going, what it's mutating into. We all know about the Delta virus, and now we hear about the MU virus. Is there anything new, and do you have concerns about where this is going?
I think the priority is always to get as many people vaccinated as possible, because as long as you have susceptible hosts, there is an environment for the virus to keep multiplying. And if every time a virus multiplies, it changes a little bit. That's what happens. When the virus multiplies, it has small changes in its gene, and that's what's called mutations. Once a virus accumulates enough mutations for it to change, I'm changed enough that maybe I can infect more people, or I can cause more severe disease. That's when it starts label it like a variant or a variant of concern, when it's large enough to impact those groups, like cause more infections, spread more easily, and cause more severe complications. If we don't get enough people vaccinated in time, you're going to have a lot of people who are susceptible to this. And therefore, over time, the virus can figure out a way to overcome the immunity, potentially. Thus far, the reassuring thing is that even with the Delta variant, et cetera, while there have been some breakthrough infections, the protection conveyed by the vaccines have been reasonably good, particularly with respect to severe disease. Except in a select group of people, like persons over the age of 65, or if you have underlying health condition, maybe you need the additional booster to boost you up just enough. But it's all a matter of time. We have to make sure we stay ahead of the virus and not constantly play catch up. It took us a year and we're still playing a little bit of catch up, but by getting enough people immunized and by getting enough people or sick immunosuppressed people, getting them the booster shot, we want to kind of cut the cycle of spread of infection from person to person. And the last point is unvaccinated people do tend to have more virus present in their system, and therefore generally transmitted more readily and to more people than those who are vaccinated.
If you have more virus in your system, like you just said, the unvaccinated, you hear so much about these antibodies. Are antibodies built up even when you just have the virus and you're asymptomatic?
Yeah, so asymptomatic infections typically occur in people who are vaccinated. So they have enough antibodies that protect them from severe disease, but maybe it doesn't protect them from having like a mild case or a minimal case where you just have the virus. But even that will help you develop infection. But now that's people who are vaccinated. If, on the other hand, you were never vaccinated and just had a very mild case of COVID, there is enough evidence to tell us that those people actually don't have as good an immune response or as high an antibody response as those who had more severe COVID and recovered. So actually, if you had a very mild infection, the odds are you don't have enough antibodies to protect you from a second infection.
You just, in answering those questions, you gave a lot of reasons for people to get vaccinated. I'm sure you've dealt with people that are vaccine hesitant. What do you tell them? Is there a way to convince somebody to get vaccinated when you are a physician?
I think we can, the vaccine efficacy information has been out at this point for more than 10 months because December of last year, with the efficacy results for the first Pfizer and Moderna data were released. So there's enough medical information and we have enough long-term data to safely state that the vaccines work and they are safe. But it's really a divide between what the mind knows and what the heart believes in, because it's sort of like a core belief. Like, I know this information, but that's not what I choose to believe. All I can say is, as a physician, I've seen the vaccines work and keep us all safe. As a human being, I've had firsthand experience with my parents. My parents are older; they're in their 70s. They do have underlying health conditions, and they had to go to India for personal reasons. And I would not let them travel until they were fully vaccinated. They went to India and they lived through the worst of the pandemic in India, when there was shutdown and people were really dying. I remember my parents telling me that all night long, all day, all night, they kept hearing the ambulance sounds of people driving, trying to find hospital beds. My father did get COVID about 2 months after he was fully vaccinated. Despite that, he was sick for a day and he survived. He did fine, thankfully. My mother, who lived in the same household, who was vaccinated, never got sick. And actually, I think it also protected my grandmother, who wasn't able to get vaccinated. Then she never even acquired COVID. So, all I can say is I'm really thankful that in some ways the work that I was a part of doing helped protect my parents. And especially because I know firsthand of many family members that I've lost in India because they were unable to get vaccinated. We are privileged to be able to have access to vaccines, and we should use that.
Well, that's an important story, and I'm so glad your parents are doing fine. I'm so glad they got vaccinated. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Shobha Swaminathan, Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. Next on Jersey Matters.
COVID-19 vaccine mandates across the country are forcing people to either get their shots or possibly lose their jobs. We'll speak about just that with some New Jersey first responders. Coming up next on Jersey Matters.
On Tuesday, the CDC approved the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. And then on Thursday, Jersey Shore University Medical Center was administering the shots to 25 New Jersey children. Jersey Shore will now have shots available for children every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon from 2 to 6. No appointment is necessary. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. COVID-19 mandates are taking effect nationwide. And for those who choose not to get their shots, it could cost them their jobs. Jersey Matters' Kimberly Kravitz reports on employees caught in the COVID crosshairs in New Jersey. Kimberly.
Time is of the essence when a fire breaks out, and just imagine what a neighborhood would do when there is a shortage of firefighters. Well, here in the town of Maplewood, along with other neighboring towns, many firefighters will soon be on unpaid leave due to COVID-19 vaccine mandates.
We have bore the brunt of this pandemic since its beginning.
Kevin Herbert, president of the Firefighters Mutual Benevolent Association, says it's tough to picture what a significant shortage of firefighters in town would look like.
This is not just a career, but this is a calling. And these members have served honorably for years and are now being told that they may not be good enough to continue serving.
A self-imposed vaccine mandate by the municipality would mean that several first responders would be shown the door if they do not comply by November 7th.
So now I may be looked at losing my pay and putting food on my family's table. Myself and my wife losing our health benefits up until we come to a different decision here.
Maplewood isn't the only town with this self-imposed mandate. In August, Newark officials, along with West Orange, announced that they too will be requiring all municipal workers to get their shots or would lose their jobs.
We asked for our building and our cars to be sanitized when unanswered. We requested the township have available testing from the beginning. That went unanswered until August of this year. We requested thermometers for our officers to get their temperature checked early on. That went unanswered.
If we're not vaccinated by Sunday, November 7th, regardless of our religious or medical status, the township threatens to place us on unpaid leave.
In New York City, nearly 10,000 workers were placed on unpaid leave for failing to get immunized, leading to daily protests since the mayor's vaccine mandate took effect.
And if they are told that they cannot work, it will be the department and the city of New York that sends them home, and it'll be the department and the city of New York that has failed to protect the citizens of the city of New York.
One officer was unable to make the vaccination deadline due to his doctor's orders.
I actually, right now, I can't be vaccinated because I just recovered from COVID-19 about a month ago. So due to my doctor, until the beginning of January, I'm not even allowed to consider taking the shot.
The Maplewood Township Administrator, Jerry Jimis, denied an interview but provided us with this statement. Since the start of this pandemic, the mayor and committee have been committed to protecting the health and safety of our employees and those we interact with. Maplewood was and will continue to be a leader in this regard. We must prioritize public safety. This policy is not just about protecting our employees. It is about protecting the residents our staff comes in contact with. The irrefutable fact is this: unvaccinated employees pose a greater risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19 in the workplace and to members of the public who depend on township services.
We're not looking for more money. We're not looking for pats on the back. All we're looking for is just reasonable actions.
The resolution requires employees to get their first shots by November 7th and 4 weeks later proof of their second shot without the option of a routine COVID-19 testing. For now, reporting from Maplewood for Jersey Matters, I'm Kimberly Kravitz.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. It was the most expensive Senate race in New Jersey in Burlington County. Republican turned Democratic incumbent Dawn Addiego was trying to hold back a challenge from Republican Assemblywoman Jean Stanfield. $3 million were spent on this race, and in the end, Stanfield won. We talked with her this week. Senator-elect, let me be one of the first to congratulate you. Nice job.
Thank you so much. No, thank you so much. It was a team effort. Let me tell you, a lot of effort went into it. Our whole team worked very hard.
It was a team effort, and it was a lot of money. It
Lots
was
of money.
a whole lot of money. I was watching the ads. After ads run, and there was some nasty ads about you. Yeah. After an election, do you just brush it off? Do you just wash it off, or does anything linger?
No, I'm pretty good at brushing things off, even during the campaign. You know, sometimes it would get to you, but so many people came up to me when I was doing my grocery shopping at Home Depot and just said, "Hey, we saw those ads. We know that's not you." And that really made me feel better. So I'm able to push it aside now.
What do you think happened? I mean, it wasn't just your race. We're recording this, by the way, I want to tell people, on the Wednesday right after the election. And right now, Senate President Steve Sweeney is losing. There's Vito Powell is losing, and the Republicans might pick up 3 seats. Nationally, we saw Republicans doing really well. What do you think is going on? Was your race district specific, or do you think you were part of a national trend?
I think it's actually a combination. District specific in the sense that people know me here. I was sheriff for 18 years and assembly person for 2 years. So I do have a deep history here, but definitely part of a bigger picture because we saw people getting involved in our campaign that were never involved before. And people were looking at the issues that really never followed politics or cared much about government before because their lives are being affected in the wrong way. And they're upset. So that that motivated people to get out. There was so much enthusiasm. I really haven't seen that. And I've run many times in the last 20 years. It was the first time I've seen this kind of enthusiasm.
Deeply affected in what ways? What was it that drove them to the polls?
For many people, they're concerned about taxes. I mean, we are the highest tax state. People are afraid they can't stay here any longer. For seniors, that's a huge issue. And families trying to get started. But we also saw many people come out because they're concerned about medical freedom. They want to make choices for their children and in their schools. And they're getting involved now because they see the government has started to shape their lives in a way that they're not happy.
So do you believe it was a party vote? You seem like the things you knocked off were both local problems and national problems, but they were Democratic pushed issues that you're talking about, or a cause and effect because of their policies. So do you believe that they were going out and they were going to vote for the Republican, even though they know you?
Yes, I do. I think it's definitely a combination. And for many people who didn't know us and weren't involved before, it's definitely a reaction to vote Republican because they're scared of what's happening under Democratic rule.
So what do you feel? You're going to go to Trenton now, and you're going to be in the minority still, but a slightly bigger minority, it sounds like.
Exactly.
What do you feel like you're being asked to do when you get there?
First and foremost, to be a voice of reason. You know, people keep saying that they just want somebody there that's going to be reasonable. We've seen a lot of radical legislation come through, and primarily the spending. You know, spending's out of control. The budget's up 30% from where it was when Governor Murphy took office. Nobody's home budget went up 30%, and people are really concerned about that. So we need to be able to get in there, have our voices heard, and be able to stop some of this ridiculous spending and make sure the money's going to our schools so that property taxes can go down because schools are getting the money they need. You know, Governor Murphy missed a big opportunity this year. We called on him many times to use all the federal pandemic funding to cut back on the cuts that were happening in our school districts. You know, many of our schools lost money under this new school funding formula, and he could have paused those cuts using federal money, and it wouldn't have cost New Jersey taxpayers a dime. But that lack of relief is going to raise taxes for so many people.
Well, congratulations again. I hope you enjoy your new office, Senator-elect. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Republican Senator-elect Gene Stanfield. Another close race in Atlantic County for the Senate. We'll talk with the winner next. So all in all, it looks like the Republicans will pick up 2 seats in the New Jersey Senate, but the shocker is in Gloucester County, where Republican Ed Durr, a truck driver and political novice, defeated powerful Senate President Steve Sweeney. And in Atlantic County, it was the battle of the Vinces between Democrat Vince Mazzeo and Republican Vince Polistina. Now, the polls predicted the Democrat would win. He didn't. Here's my interview with Senator Vince Polistina. Let me start off by saying congratulations, but I don't know whether to call you senator or senator-elect. Which one would you like to be called?
I'm the senator here, Larry, but thank you. We were selected by the Atlantic County Republican Committee. We were sworn, although we'll do an official ceremony in Trenton, but I am the senator here for District 2 in Atlantic County.
Let's explain what happened. You were chosen to replace Chris Brown. You went to get sworn in, but the Senate President, Steve Sweeney, refused to swear you in. You had your own swearing-in ceremony with the judge. He said that didn't count. And so that's why I asked the question for those who don't know the story. You consider yourself a senator. Steve Sweeney has not said you're a senator. However, Steve Sweeney may not be a senator anymore. Give me your thoughts on that election. We're recording this on Wednesday morning, and it seems like he may lose to a guy that spent $153 and is a truck driver.
Certainly could be some irony there, Larry. We'll see how this plays out. But yeah, I think they all thought after they tried to deny me having my legislative office and trying to prevent me from being sworn in, I think they thought they would be saying goodbye to me when we do the official ceremony in Trenton, and it may end up being the other way around, where we're saying goodbye to Steve Sweeney, depending on how this plays out in District 3. Be a tremendous, ironic situation if that's the way it plays out. But you know, the whole thing, I mean, people needed help with the pandemic and the division of motor vehicles and unemployment. There were so many issues here that people in Atlantic County needed help with, and I don't think it was good for them to play the games that they did, to deny me the access to the office, deny me the ability to help people, because I think people looked at that here and said it's not right, should not happen, and they didn't respect them just playing politics for the sake of playing politics.
And why did they do it? Did they do it specifically to win this election?
Did it specifically to try to win this election. It was all about trying to deny me the ability to be the senator, to help people with all the things they needed help with right now. It was all politics. It literally could have been stopped with a 30-second phone call to the Office of Legislative Services. They refused to do it.
Do you believe that helped you win?
I do believe it helped me win. I do believe that people around here in Atlantic County rejected, you know, that just people playing politics. I don't think they respect it. You know, you add in the negative campaign they ran, and I think the voters here responded. And, you know, it was obviously a great night for Republicans in many areas, but I think people looked at this situation and, you know, did not respect what the Democrats did and didn't respect my opponents saying anything about it. They were silent the whole time. They know people need help, and they refuse to do anything.
You do have a plan, right? You're going to be going now to Trenton, and you'll finally get an office. You'll be going to Trenton. What do you believe is your job? What do you believe that the citizens sent you to do?
So there are a lot of things I think we were sent to do. I think primary is the cost of living and the unaffordability of New Jersey. We were hearing it out on the street. You know, they follow these polls all the time. They take all this data. They run their campaigns based on polling. We were running our campaign based on knocking on doors and talking to voters and listening to people, you know, as we were going out in the community. And what they were saying was property taxes are horrible. Cost of living is terrible. The unaffordability in New Jersey is something we don't want. Now couple in the inflation, and every time we go to the grocery store, go to the gas pumps, we have to pay more. People were frustrated, and we were hearing that out on the street. So affordability is number one. Of course, I represent Atlantic City. That is 1A. You know, we have got to redevelop, reinvest into Atlantic City. We got to get more police officers on the street. We got to make it clean. We got to make it safe. And so that's kind of going to be our initial focus of what we do. We got to make education more equitable. We got to diversify the economy here, create jobs. So there are a number of fronts we're going to be working on. I'm really eager to get going on it.
Well, sir, I'm glad you can put this all behind you. You are officially senator now, even though I'm sure you thought you've been senator for some time now. Congratulations, and thanks for talking to us today. Senator Vince Polistina, Atlantic County. Still to come on Jersey Matters.
A group of New Jersey parents have been asking Governor Phil Murphy for months to allow for a virtual schooling option for children and families that are prone to COVID-19 complications. But so far, no luck. More on that story next.
Welcome back. A group of New Jersey parents have been asking Governor Murphy for months now to allow remote learning options for their children who are either vulnerable or have family members who are vulnerable to COVID-19. Our Jennifer Marin reports so far their requests have been ignored. Jennifer.
Larry, this group of parents have been asking Governor Phil Murphy to meet with them since June to discuss this virtual schooling option. Still, they've had no luck securing that meeting, but they say they'll keep pushing for the safety of their families.
He stopped growing at 27 weeks.
Deanna Nye is a mother to 3 special needs children.
My son has every form of epilepsy on the planet, and he has a rare brain disease called Landau-Kelfner syndrome. Something as simple as a cold can land him in the hospital. My daughter is just as bad, if not worse. She has polyclonal gammopathy, and her body does not make enough antibodies. She is one that, unfortunately, the illnesses that have come home with school, she ended up in ICU for 7 days with mycoplasma double pneumonia, and it almost killed her.
Deanna says her children's medical conditions resulted in many absences from school, but the pandemic changed that.
Once we flipped full remote, their attendance was perfect. My oldest made the honor roll all 4 marking periods.
Like her 2 younger children, Deanna's oldest son, Trevor, also missed school days due to medical conditions, but the switch to virtual learning impacted his life far beyond grades.
He finished out the school year 2020 with A's and B's, and he was on the verge of failing because he was sick and absent, but he was also bullied. And he was bullied to an extent where he almost took his own life in January 2020. So going remote actually saved him.
Virtual learning proved beneficial to Deanna's family. But on March 23, 2021, after over a year of virtual learning across the state, Governor Phil Murphy announced that there would be no virtual option for the 2021-2022 school year.
Parents, like myself, got upset.
Deanna and another Bridgewater mom, Karen Strauss, decided to form a group called the New Jersey Parents for Virtual Choice. They launched the Change.org petition. It's received over 27,000 signatures, but all their efforts to reach out and schedule a meeting with the governor have been unsuccessful.
If over 27,000 people are telling you we need something better, it would be kind just to talk to us. We could change his mind in 5 minutes.
Karen, who lost her brother-in-law to COVID-19, says her son's asthma is the reason she prefers virtual instruction. Back on June 17th, she was able to speak to Governor Murphy. He said he would be open to a meeting with the group, but was not inclined to change his mind. That meeting has yet to happen, but the group says they won't give up.
All he keeps saying is that every child belongs in the classroom, and that's not true.
The virtual schooling option the group is asking for would consist of a teacher solely dedicated to teaching online, as opposed to both online and in person at the same time. Karen says teachers have expressed interest in these virtual positions.
The teachers that retired or took leave because of the pandemic, they would come back. They want to teach. They just don't want to teach under the circumstances they were given.
Both Deanna and Karen stressed that the group isn't looking to change the system entirely.
We want parents to be able to send their kids to school in person. We're not expecting them to give up that right. We just want a right to be able to choose the virtual option for our children rather than sending them in.
New Jersey is actually one of a few states to either ban or strictly limit virtual learning, joining others like North Carolina and neighboring New York City. For now, reporting in Bridgewater, for Jersey Matters, I'm Jennifer Marin.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. My commentary is next. There is simply no way to sugarcoat it. The results of this week's off-year elections are a disaster for the Democratic Party. The only good thing for the Democrats is they get a chance to study and learn from what happened this week, especially in Virginia and New Jersey. In New Jersey, Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli was 26 points behind just a couple of months ago, but came within a percentage point of beating Democratic incumbent Governor Phil Murphy. And the Republicans in New Jersey are likely to pick up 8 seats in the state assembly and 3 in the Senate, including Republican Ed Durr, who describes himself as a truck driver and grandfather with no political experience who spent less than $200 on his campaign. It's not just the fact that he won. It's who he defeated. Longtime Senate President in New Jersey, Steve Sweeney, the most powerful Senate president in the country. Sweeney seemingly ignored the old political adage, never take any election for granted. And now to Virginia, where Republican businessman Glenn Youngkin was also far behind Democratic former Governor Terry McAuliffe and pulled off a huge upset. But again, just like in New Jersey and Virginia, it's much more than that. They also won the lieutenant governor's race, which in Virginia is a separate race. They won the attorney general race, and they also picked up at least 5 seats in the state house, assuring them at least a 50-50 tie. The headlines screamed of a panic in the National Democratic Party with the midterm elections and the fate of Congress just a year away. But here is what Democrats could learn from this election. Donald Trump wasn't on the ballot, so stop talking about him. It doesn't work. Both Governor Murphy in New Jersey and former Governor Terry McAuliffe in Virginia tried to tie their opponents to Donald Trump, and it backfired big time. At the same time, Republicans Jack Ciattarelli in New Jersey and Glenn Youngkin in Virginia focused on the economy and taxes and schools. They made the elections about the voters and the positive things they would try to do for them, instead of trying to scare voters with the return of the boogeyman, which just failed. Democrats should also learn that independent voters, the voters who decide these elections, think your party is way too liberal. Don't take my word for that. In exit polls taken in Virginia, 58% of independent voters believe the Democratic Party is shifting too far to the left. Democratic moderates in the House have taken notice of this and are reportedly already starting to bail on the nearly $2 trillion social spending bill that has been stalled in Congress for a couple of months. And finally, President Joe Biden and his sinking approval ratings have become a liability for the Democratic Party. Democrats in Virginia report that the poll numbers for all of their candidates in that state started to sink after the debacle that was the Afghanistan withdrawal, and they just kept going south from there. Biden's campaign appearances for McAuliffe in Virginia and for Murphy in New Jersey may have done more harm than good. The elections in New Jersey and Virginia should be a wake-up call for the Democratic Party, and especially in swing districts, they should run moderates who run on making a positive change in the lives of the voters, and not about Donald Trump. In both Virginia and New Jersey, the Republican candidates did a good job of keeping Donald Trump from campaigning for them in their states. The Democrats need to learn from that too. So to mitigate damage in next year's midterm elections, Democratic candidates may need to ask Joe Biden to stay in the White House and out of sight. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.